No Adams, no Ferguson, no problem.
Whew.
Thunder take care of business in Orlando, man. It got dicey at times, but the Thunder did the thing that good teams do. That you give up a big run and you don't just succumb to it. You don't just break from it. And they went on a big run of their own in the fourth quarter. And they end up winning by 9, pretty handily actually in the end. 6 in a row, Jayson.
Yeah, feels
It's a
good.
it's a lot more fun when this team's winning.
Oh, absolutely. It's the
Hmm.
best.
Yeah, that's like. By the
Yeah.
way, this is our last aftershock, our last live aftershock before these things completely exclusively move over to Patreon. So go over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Thunderheads. Help support the show. We'd really appreciate it. We're going to do these for every single game afterwards, unless we have a full show scheduled the next day. There's also other perks over there. An extra podcast per month. Different tiers have different perks. Go see which one fits you. We also have a new video that we edited down over there, a little intro video. It's a little fun. So even if you're not going to sign up, go over to the page and just check out the video. It's kind of fun. We spent a little time on that.
It's real nice and short too.
There's an air horn in it.
Yeah. Solves all your problems.
Where do we start here? I mean, this felt like this was number one. I think it was a fun game, right? This was a fun game. There's a lot of fun things that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was, the most enjoyable part for me was the Russ and PG replaying of Russ's Euro step down the court. Like
Yep.
just the camaraderie of all the guys tonight just seemed a little bit more on display than I feel like we've seen recently. Like, and then you have like Schroder hitting that 3 where Russ was standing over him, kind of just hyping him up a little. It seemed like they were having fun playing basketball, which is always nice.
I think that's what this team really has going for it right now, too. I mean, you mentioned the camaraderie, and that evidently has been a thing all season long. I mean, it's been everyone's talking about it. Beat writers are writing about it. The guys in the locker room are talking about it. These guys are close, and it's showing on the court right now. I mean, they're feeding off of each other offensively, especially. This team is crazy hot on the offensive end right now. Check this out. Over their last 11 games, they have a 116.9 offensive rating, which is 4th in the league over that same span.
That's so crazy to think this team could do that.
Complete 180, right? I mean, what do you point to?
I mean, a big part of it's PG. He's been just ridiculous. And then, I mean, you've got like the other guys are stepping up and finally able to make shots. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, a big example of that, you could even point to Schroder tonight, going back to him, that fourth quarter of his, he was 7 for 8, 87%.
Yeah.
Like
18 points.
Like without his 18 points in that fourth quarter, we lose that game, I think. Like the
For sure.
Thunder couldn't do anything offensively from like middle of the third through whenever Schroder got hot.
Yeah, they hit a wall.
Yeah, it was like no one could get the ball to go in, and he finally just kind of got aggressive and did his thing, and it was awesome to see.
And it was kind of the worry coming in tonight too, right? Because I think, going back to kind of what I was just talking about, the camaraderie this team is showing and how well they are playing offensively. Well, a lot of that I think is just the consistency that they've been having over the past 10 games. Even, they've won 6 in a row, but I mentioned the numbers in the last 11 games. Well, those 5 games prior to the 6-game winning streak weren't good. This team wasn't winning. Like, they were playing good on the offensive end, but they were not playing well defensively.
Right.
Now they've stepped up a little better on the defensive end. So coming in tonight, you felt like you were losing that. No Adams, no Ferguson. This team's shot distribution has been incredible lately. I mean, you're looking at the starting lineup, and it's like 19 shots for George, 18 for Russ, 12 for Adams, 11 for Grant, 10 for Ferguson.
Yeah, it's been
That's
perfect.
something that we've never experienced as Thunder fans before. And to me, that speaks to this team's chemistry. Right. And tonight, I was a little worried we were going to lose a little bit of that. Maybe Russ takes it upon himself too much to pick up that what you're missing. And maybe Paul George does the same thing. Well, they did kind of do that, but they just did it. They filled
worked.
that void. And then, like you mentioned, Dennis Schroder was awesome down the stretch.
Yeah, and I mean, Russ was actually like he was third on the team in shots taken tonight. Like, so Jeremy Grant and PG were both ahead of him in that category, and I think he played like a pretty awesome game tonight. Like he controlled himself really well, and you could tell he was focused on getting other guys shots. Like, and I just love to see that Russ every time it's there.
12 shots for Russ, 7 for 12 from the field. Here's what I really liked about his game tonight: 12 free throw attempts. This is something we're not seeing from him a lot lately, right? Only he makes 8 of them, so he goes 8 for 12, 67%, which is about on par for a season average. Whatever. I just like the fact that he got there and he got to shoot a bunch of them. Like that shows me that number one, he was aggressive all night long.
Yeah.
You're right. He came into the game with a mindset of, no, I'm just gonna do what I always do. Like I don't need to do anything extra. I don't need to go be MVP Russ. I'm just gonna go play my role on this team. And that's where, man, you got to give Russ credit because I keep waiting for him to just pull back out of that and just go a little, rogue
a little crazy, yeah.
A little what he is in his core. He is. He's that wild animal in his core, and he can't be tamed. He's tamed himself, and he's awesome. He deserves a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, and one thing about him tonight, like kind of what you were getting at with the free throws, it feels like that explosiveness really is starting to come back to him. Like
yes,
he's getting down the court faster than he has all season. I mean, especially since he came back from that injury and everything. It's just really nice to see him being aggressive, getting to the rim, and having that explosiveness back. That's something I feel like we've missed a lot.
So what do you think that is? Do you think that I think we touched on this last show a little bit. Do you think that it was actually him just getting his feet under him after those injuries, after those setbacks, or definitely not those stepbacks, those setbacks, and him just like kind of maybe getting his energy back, getting back in shape, getting his athleticism fully back to where he knows would be eventually, and maybe just not pushing it, or was he just doing that, just not pushing it, just saving himself a little bit for maybe the second half of the season where he could really start ramping it up?
I mean, maybe he was saving it. That doesn't feel like a Russ thing to do. But I mean, like you said, he has tamed himself a little this year. But I don't know. I feel like that knee surgery over the offseason, I think it maybe impacted his conditioning maybe a little more than we thought.
And then the ankle too, and he could never find a groove. Yeah.
Right. Like, so he missed training camp and all that stuff. And there's all these like kind of built-in excuses, but also they do actually affect people's conditioning. Like basketball shape is a crazy thing to be in, especially if you're in Russell Westbrook basketball shape. Like that's just some ungodly level that no one probably has any idea about.
But I think that his whole career, he's been such a robot and the guy that nothing has ever affected him. Like when he had 3 surgeries in the off season, he came back and was like literally didn't miss a beat. Yeah. I mean, that's when it was at that point that everyone's like, okay, this guy's not human. He's just, he's one of the most insane athletes we've ever seen in the history of sport. Right? I mean, so I think that's what's been so alarming this season when we haven't seen that explosiveness. But man, what a great sign it is for the Thunder going forward that we are getting glimpses of it right now. And then, so tonight, I think it was 2 big stories. You can say 3 if you want to throw Russ's game in there, but to me, this wasn't out of the ordinary for Russ or anything like that. Paul George in the first half, 31 points, insane person, MVP performance in that first half. Comes out in the second half, only scores 6 points, but still finishes the game 14 for 24, 7 for 9 from the line, 2 for 5 from 3, 6 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 0 turnovers.
Incredible.
The dude's a stud, and he just got on a roll in that second quarter. Man, that and one.
Oh my God, I don't know how
I think it
high
grazed
that
the ceiling
shot went, but it was ridiculous. Like I had no clue how that went in.
So that's story number 1, and then story number 2 is what we've already talked about a little bit. It was Schroder in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this team really has going for it, right? Is we're seeing multiple guys step up at any given moment. And this isn't just limited to these scores. When you talk about Russ, Paul, and even Steven and Schroder, man, Ferguson.
Yeah.
7 up. Grant will step up and hit a big shot.
And then, I mean, another thing tonight, Nerlens stepping up in the absence of Steven. Like that was big to me. How many blocks did he have? It
5.
felt like
5 blocks.
It felt like 7.
5 blocks. Yep. Especially in the first half. He was great in the first half on Vucevic. Vucevic got it going a little bit in the second half.
Which
and tonight,
Nerlens, I guess he went out he got hit in the face or something, so he was out for a small portion of time in that.
I think got poked in the eye. Yeah, something like that. He gets hit in the face a lot, huh?
So much.
Got
It's a
elbowed.
big old target, you know.
Yeah, he got like cut by his mask earlier in the year. Remember
Yeah.
when
Oh,
something
his
happened with his?
glasses broke. Yeah, cut
Oh
his
yeah,
eye out.
that's right. He was wearing goggles,
Goggles.
and
Yeah, no, they were kind of glass goggles. So goggles,
yeah.
it works.
Ooh, that's true. Surely they weren't glass goggles. That seems unsafe. That seems terribly
That's why they
unsafe.
cut him up.
But yeah, I mean, he did pretty much all you can ask him to do throughout the game,
Yep.
and the Thunder struggled in areas you kind of expect them to struggle in tonight, rebounding the ball. They get out rebounded by 10 overall. They allowed 18 offensive rebounds by the Magic. No Steven Adams, things like that are going to happen. A lot of
Yeah.
times the defense just looked lazy, especially on rebounds. I mean, the Magic shot 41 threes too, and a lot of them were really good looks. The Thunder didn't play their game tonight, and they
Yeah.
still won. They still won the game.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if that says that this team's just really good or Orlando sucks. I don't know. Maybe both.
it's probably a combo, like a middle area there. But it was really nice to see. I mean, during that losing streak we just witnessed, you know, they had dropped games to bad teams, and this has kind of felt like after that incredible win over Milwaukee, like coming into this, I was like, this. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter were saying this is a trap game, you know, all that stuff because we were favored and everything.
Yeah.
But it just felt like this was one of those games they could come in, especially once you found out Adams and Ferg were out. I was like, well, yeah, this seems like one they could just. I mean, Orlando is just like a weird place. It seems like to play. Like there's not a lot of noise in that building, and it's just oddly dead.
Well,
So
I
it's
think
like,
our buddy Cody Taylor tweeted out. He was at the game covering the game, and he said that it was basically a home game for the Thunder tonight.
well, yeah, PG got MVP chance, which
Right.
was awesome.
And Russ got MVP chance a couple years ago when he did win the MVP.
Right.
Is that one of the only arenas in the entire NBA that likes the Thunder? The Thunder
Uh,
aren't a very liked team.
Brooklyn liked Russ. I remember he got those chants in Brooklyn too, I think.
Okay, yeah, I'll give
But
New York and LA.
yeah,
Those arenas like good players,
right.
like
They just like
superstars.
basketball.
But outside of that, I don't know if they're
Yeah,
Orlando might be the only one.
I think you're correct.
I'll take it.
But on that whole thing about the defense being lazy and everything, I was kind of going to ask you with Paul George's first half.
Mm.
I was starting to think at some point. I think it was in the third. I was like, it was when he was going bonkers in the second. I was thinking like, is he gonna get tired? Because he was playing really hard on both ends. Like he was just locked in on both ends of the ball. And I was like, how is he doing? Like at some point, you just scored 31 points.
Right.
How? And so then in the third quarter, it kind of like I did notice him kind of. He sort of got screened like barely and just kind of let the guy go. And I started to see him like tire out a little, you know, when he
Yeah.
started missing shots. Like, do you think he kind of just gave all that energy in the first, or is it he just kind of cooled off? Maybe.
Maybe a little bit. That's probably part of it. And then I think kind of it was a team vibe too, right? They just kind of came
Yeah.
out a little like, like, oh, we're gonna beat this team. Like we're just better than this team, and that's gonna happen in the NBA sometimes. But Paul George, like, also he didn't really get it going offensively in that third quarter. He was kind of playing right into the hands of the Magic's defense, which I'm sure they made adjustments at halftime. That's going to happen, and he just wasn't getting the looks that he likes, and he was attacking the rim tonight. Like he wasn't shooting threes all night. He took 5. Like normally he takes what 10.
Yeah.
So he only took 5 tonight, which is a low number for him, and he was just having a good time attacking the rim. So maybe that plays into your point just now that that could tire him out as the game goes
Yeah, it
on.
looked exhausting. So
We also hear him talk about after the game, and I don't think it's a lie. And we kind of joke about it as a podcast all the time together about how he always says the right thing. God, Paul George just always says the right thing. I love hearing him talk because he feels like he's so open and honest all the time.
right.
Well, he talks about how his defense plays into his offense. You know, that they go hand in hand. When he's locked in on the defensive end, that's when he's playing his best on the offensive end. And it probably works vice versa too. If he doesn't have shots falling, he's probably not going to be at his best defensively. And honestly, that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
Because when he's at his best on both ends, like he was in that first half tonight, there's times he looks like the best player in the league.
Yeah. It's like that flow thing athletes always talk about getting into. It's like he just goes to another place and is just superhuman. Like it's so amazing to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the fact that he does it on both ends. Like I'm not saying he is the best player in the league.
Yeah.
He's not, like, because he doesn't do it probably consistently enough or just kind of full on domination enough, you know. But man, he's definitely a top 10 player, which I think coming into the year he was fringe top 10, probably, close somewhere between 10 and 15.
And I feel
He's
like we talked
definitely
about that at some point of like kind of putting him in that 10 to 15 range, but
he's
definitely
definitely
moved
top 10 right now. Like where off the top of your head, and I know you're not good with numbers.
I'll put him in.
You're gonna give it a letter. Well, if you had to, like, off the top of your head, first instinct, gut reaction, where does he rank in the NBA amongst individual players? Where would you put him?
Just off the top of my head, I want to just toss him around 7, but
yeah, 7. That's kind of where I'd go to. I'm feeling like 7.
But I'm not actually contemplating who all's up there. But
yeah, we can go through them and everything. But I don't really want to do that. But like that just says how awesome he is. And I think that honestly, what's holding it back from even being higher is that we probably need just not that we need more convincing, but he just needs to do it for a longer period of time. Continue to do this, and you're just going to keep going up that list.
Yeah, and I think people like. A lot of people's memory right now is last season where he was incredible for stretches of time and then he would just kind of disappear for a while. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is that going to happen again? Like, I remember when he kind of sloped off a little bit. I think it was last month or in the beginning of this month, he'd kind of come down a little bit and people were like, oh, is PG coming back to earth? Is he
wrong
slowing down? No, not necessarily.
Yeah. No,
it's kind of
picked it right back up.
So,
and honestly has had a couple of his best games here recently, after that little mini slump, if you want to call it. Like that slump, though, that we're talking about Paul George coming back to earth that you're referring to, it wasn't like last year, Paul George. It wasn't like his slumps last year. Not even close. Like this guy's a different player.
Yeah, I agree. And he was incredible during that slump. Like that's why like people were asking this and I'm like, I mean, he's not slump. He's incredible. How do you tell a guy that's like 7 for 14 that he's slumping or whatever?
Right. Yeah, it's just this team needs him to be great, and that's what's made this team great this year, or a large part of it is because he has been great. You think he's the leader for Defensive Player of the Year? Because I think that he probably has a better chance to win Defensive Player of the Year than he does MVP because there's just more competition, I think, in the MVP race. You think he's the leader in the clubhouse right now?
I mean,
sure feels
in my mind, most definitely. And I think the way this team's identity has kind of formed around his defense, like his being the defensive leader of this team, and you see it in Russell. Like this year, he's come out and said, he kind of challenged Russ over the summer, to like, why not make an all defense team,
Mm-hmm.
And just his ability to kind of pick up everybody's defensive intensity, I think kind of will help him a lot. I don't know if all voters will think
and his
of him
reputation,
that way, but yeah. I mean, you look at this team's overall defense, and then he's the leader of that into the court for sure, and becoming one of the kind of leading the team all around. But
I think right now this team is his team.
Yeah.
This season, it sure feels like it's his team. I don't know that you can ever, and this is probably a dumb conversation to have. It's not a battle about whose team it is. That's not what it's about. But you know what I mean. Like every team, like there's one name you associate with each team as far as being like at the top of the pyramid of that team. Like I run this team.
I'm the go-to guy. Like
this team goes as I go. It kind of feels like Paul George is that guy this year, which
and I guess the argument for that is like, hey, even if Russ has a bad game, I can still win this for us. Like, it's not based on like if I have a bad game, we're probably going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you could give him that based on.
And you can certainly still make the argument that it's Russell Westbrook as it's his team. You can
I mean, this is Russell Westbrook's city, so like
that's true.
Like, it's a different level of
and it will be Russell Westbrook city until he retires and maybe even beyond
forever.
That. Like when will that run out?
It's his.
When will that run out? That's a fair question.
I don't know if
he's
will,
definitely
man.
Getting a statue somewhere in the city or multiple places even.
They should probably just start building it now.
Every few miles, give him one.
Just little Russells everywhere.
One thing I don't know if you guys talked about it last Aftershock. I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing. You talk about
long, man.
Did you get a chance to talk about the staggering of Paul George and Russ?
A little bit, yeah.
It's a new thing. And since Billy's been doing it, the Thunder haven't lost a game.
Right. Yeah. And the cool thing to me about this is, and I mean, he's only done it, I think, 2 of those games that they've won, is where he puts Steven in with the bench. And he's also peppered in some Jeremy Grant. Like, he's left him in with them for a bit. I think the way he's kind of doing it on a game by game basis is really interesting to me. Like, it's not the typical, like, well, we're just doing this and going with it. Like,
he's definitely gone with staggering Russ and Paul George at least, but you're right. Like, he's mixing up the rest of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yep. Like, that's the main component of it, of course. Yeah, but I mean, I think I'm glad he did it. Do you think it took him too long to do it, or are you fine?
Nah, I'm fine with it. Like, I think it's one of those things. What if you do that all year? Doesn't it go stale at some point?
Yeah, probably. And like I've heard Billy talk about this a couple times where he really doesn't like messing with, like, especially with how well Paul's been playing this year. Like, he said he doesn't like messing with their continuity. Like, they get into kind of a groove, and then when you switch their minutes up and you're like pulling PG in the first like couple, like 5 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever he's been doing, numbers. Like, whenever you're pulling him that quickly, it kind of could throw him off, and he's not wanting to do that. So I definitely understand him kind of waiting through that period, but it seems like his hand was a little forced. Like, right now, this, like, going with an all bench unit just wouldn't work. Like, it wasn't working.
And don't be surprised if he stops staggering these guys soon. Like, that's just the Billy way, right? He's going to test everything throughout the season because he's testing it for the postseason. What's he want to do? What works best? And staggering is, it seems so obvious, especially when the team starts winning, that you want to keep both one of Paul George or Russell Westbrook on the court at all times. However, these guys are playing so well together now that you also want them to spend as much time together on the court as possible. So that's where it gets difficult, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's something to it too, to the staggering, that Paul George is playing great, so he can do it on his own. He doesn't need Russ on the court with him. But I wonder if it's giving Russ a chance to not have Paul George on the court and maybe get him going a little bit as far as his scoring goes, getting a rhythm and building that up a little bit back to what we're used to from Russ.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, because you saw it in that, was it the Phoenix game where PG kind of set out, or not kind of set out, he sat out and Russ went for 40 or whatever. And so that's kind of like, well, when he's not there, he can kind of do his thing and just kind of break loose. So hopefully it helps. I mean, it seems like he shot 58% tonight, only took 12 shots, but it's nice to see him kind of starting to get back to that groove. So
for sure, we're seeing glimpses, for sure. Before we move on to questions, Alex Abrines.
He back.
Got a 3. Got 2 looks. Made one of them, I think, right? Is that it?
Yeah, shot 50%. That's what you want.
Did he look any frailer to you? Is that a word? Frailer? More frail?
I mean, I don't know. He's always looked pretty frail. So
he's a frail guy. It's
hard to tell.
Frail and pale.
I also noticed I just said tail from all of that frail talk.
He's doing some rhyming.
This is a weird thing to me that he just randomly got sprinkled back in. He only played, what was it, 5 minutes?
6, 6 minutes, yep.
Yeah. Because on the 27th, and I was just talking about this with Justin when we were at Scissors and Scotch. We did a little Periscope there, and we were just talking about this because Brett Dawson had put out a thing because Billy Donovan had told everybody, Alex Abrines, he said, quote, is not in a position to play right now, even in the G League. And he said he had been as open as he can by making clear whether Abrines will play when he's active. And it's just so weird that a couple of days ago he's like, he couldn't even play in the G League. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's good.
And maybe that was misinterpreted a little bit, that maybe it wasn't meant like he can't even play in the G League. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of interesting that was just a couple of days ago, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're playing. And maybe his hand was forced a little bit. No Terrence Ferguson. It was like, well, I got to play somebody.
Yeah.
Like, someone has to play.
Yeah, and maybe it's kind of like, I'm sure maybe the medical staff, like daily, is like they're probably evaluating Alex daily or whatever the staff is. I don't know. It's a personal issue, so you don't necessarily know if it's a medical problem.
Seems like it.
Maybe they're just trying to work him back in,
Yeah.
Like slowly.
It was cool to see right when he comes on the court, they instantly get him a corner 3.
I did like that.
Like, that's what we've been talking about for Alex Abrines forever, right?
Always
when he plays, get him a shot.
Yeah.
And they got him 2 shots in 6 minutes. Normally, they get him 2 shots in 26 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
You want to do some questions?
Let's do it. All right.
You want to hit Twitter first, and then we'll do some YouTubes?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
I got these tweets. Marcus at Mavs.
Mm.
How great is PG? And even
Good.
more
He's real good.
importantly, yeah, that's correct. And even more importantly, with everything going on lately, how amazing was it that OKC pulled off the trade literally out of nowhere? We didn't have the whole fan base splitting in two on Twitter arguing who's untouchable. Or we didn't have that whole thing that's happened with Kawhi and AD. It is kind of crazy, like just to think back on that. Like I remember I was kind of watching. ESPN had like a special going that night, and I was watching that, and then all of a sudden, PG to OKC, and I was just like, "What the hell just happened? How?"
They wouldn't have? Yeah, no, it's depending on what actually happens this year and in the next year. And the next year, while PG's here, like this could really go down as like a monumental thing. I mean, it probably will no matter what that happened in Thunder history. Remember last year after the trade, even maybe throughout the whole season, a lot of people were arguing that Indiana won that trade.
Right.
Paul George didn't have like the best season he's ever had or anything last year. Shot really well, but from three, but all in all, it wasn't his best. And Victor Oladipo was incredible last year.
So
and
good.
you could have made the argument that Oladipo was the better player for his team last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he was, but you could make that argument. And they also got Sabonis, who took a big step forward. But now you look at the way that Paul George is playing, and Oladipo, obviously he's out for the season. We wish him well. But while he was playing, he had regressed a little bit. He was not having the year this year that he was having last year. Paul George, you take him 100 times out of 100 over Victor Oladipo right now. And that trade, just making that investment, taking that chance, and it just shows what the Thunder philosophy about investing in guys.
Right.
Sometimes when it pans out, man, you love that philosophy. It's panning out. Terrence Ferguson, investing in that guy.
Yep.
Steven Adams, investing in the guy that is Paul George. And it's not like he was 23. He's 29 now, something like that. So he should be on the back end of his prime, but they're banking on him continuously getting better, and he's doing it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny looking around the league now. Like, I mean, you look at that whole Kawhi situation, and everybody, when Kawhi's like, "I want out of here," all of a sudden everybody's taking this same perspective that OKC took. It's like everybody's kind of following in those steps of like, "Hey, he might want to stay. You never know. They're like, get him here and see what happens." Like at this point, it's your only chance to get one of these guys. And
what a badass move by Sam Presti.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but Pete kind of brought it up on the ESPN documentary that the risk that Sam took on him, I think, meant a lot. Like that they were willing to take that risk for him.
And I don't know if karma is a real thing or not, but if it is, it's certainly working in the Thunder's favor right now. They're experiencing a lot of good fortune just by making that investment and sticking with it and not panicking on anything.
Yeah.
Not panicking midseason when they're not having a good year and trading him away for someone more long-term like Blake Griffin.
God, it just feels good to have a solid organization. Like, I don't know, like, there's no way people here can understand, and we never will, hopefully, until we lose this, like, structure we have in place. And, like, for fans of teams like the Knicks, Orlando, the Kings, like, where they've just gone through years of just god-awful decision-making, the Bulls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's just nice to have, like, solid, non-panicky, like, knee-jerk reaction stuff going on.
And it's honestly, most organizations aren't great.
Right.
Like, you have a handful, maybe 5 in the league that you would consider really good organizations, and the Thunder are one of those.
Yeah.
You got the Spurs, you got the Thunder, you got Toronto, you got Golden State, Utah.
Yep. Sure, there's a couple others.
I'm sure that maybe, but they're not just popping in my brain.
Yeah, I guess you could sort of say the Bucks right now, but it hasn't been for very long.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Kidd was their coach, so no, like they got some earning to do. You got to earn me over.
Really
I got one from YouTube here. Privi or 03, whatever. Let's ask them. I don't know why I read that part. How did Alex look? And do you think he gets the nod over Nader or even Diallo? I'm guessing when he's fully back.
I mean, I think he gets the nod over Diallo. I think Nader's going to continue to play, at least while like Dre's out. Because I mean he's been solid.
Hmm.
Like
He's gonna have some down games.
yeah,
He's a role player, especially on the road.
yeah, exactly. But I mean I think Diallo's gonna kind of fall out of the rotation. He's looked kind of rough at times. He got smashed by 2 blocks tonight, but then had a badass alley-oop dunk, which was really nice to see.
Yep. Yep. And it was right out of a timeout. It was a great play call. Thunder needed a basket. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I missed that weak side alley to Andre Robertson so much.
Oh, damn, that just made me sad.
What else we got?
7 cents for Mello at Rom Huff. Should we try to turn Schroder into Holiday? Just imagine the number of people you can throw at Harden. I guess he's talking about Drew Holiday.
Yeah, he's talking about Drew Holiday. I don't know if if AD wants out, if the Pelicans are going to be willing to move Drew Holiday or not. I don't really know what his contract is. I think he's under contract for a couple more years. Probably gonna have to give up more than just Schroeder for sure. Drew Holiday's a stud, and if that offer, if it presents itself, then absolutely, you got to go for it. I mean, he fits exactly into what the Thunder are trying to do. Defensively, he's dead on. I mean, if you have the ability to throw Holiday, Ferguson, Robertson when he gets back, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Jeremy Grant, like you defensively, you are
stacked. I don't know how you
very stacked
score.
I don't know if it's possible to pick up Drew Holiday. I don't know if the Thunder would have the pieces to get it done without giving up too much depth. But man,
it seems like
I love the idea
of
it. I love the idea of it.
But yeah, sure. Bobby Cortez at BC Sniper 7. Probably the most obvious and asked question, but I'll still ask. ? Can we connect the dots on both Adams and Ferg sitting out the game after AD's trade requests? Which I kind of joked about this with you guys earlier, but
it's funny. It's a funny thought, but I'm afraid not. I mean, Adams tweaked his ankle in the Bucks game,
right?
And he sat out tonight with an ankle sprain. and
the dots
Terrence
there
Ferguson,
kind of connect.
They were back spasms, so maybe Ferguson's gone. I don't know. Back spasms? He was like 21. What are you having back spasms for?
Yeah.
Is that no? No, I don't think so. I do wonder. It's a funny idea, though. Is Presti making some calls on Anthony Davis?
I mean, I would assume so. I think everybody's making some calls on Anthony Davis, right?
You would think so, but is there any merit to the thought that don't push your hand, don't go too far. Like you don't want to ruin.
Don't mellow the situation.
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit.
But I mean, this is a different.
I know it's AD. He's an incredible player. Right. If you can have a threesome of that's a weird start to the sentence, but of Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Anthony Davis, then you are right up there with the elites of the league. But I don't know. For some reason, there's is that what the universe wants? I don't know. Not to get too weird about it, but I don't want to push it.
Are you 90% sure he's going to the Lakers?
It sure feels that way.
God, everybody's pushing that so hard, and it just seems.
No, it's kind of annoying, right?
Yeah, but it sucks.
Doesn't this also just mirror the Paul George situation, though, as far as everyone pushing it thin?
And then it flipping and not happening the way people thought.
And obviously, Davis is on another level as a player than what Paul George was at that time.
Yeah.
But still, there's a lot of similarities in that. I set up for questions. We got any more?
That's all the Twitter questions. Got any YouTubes?
No.
All right. That's it.
There's so many in the, so many chats in there. Do you call each line a chat?
Mm-hmm.
One chat. I got a lot of chats to scroll through, and I just don't see any questions.
All right.
So what do we have next? No game till Friday. Miami's Friday, right?
Yeah.
Aftershock then, and that will be on Patreon.
First official Patreon Aftershock.
And these will continue to get better. I think they're running pretty smooth right now. We're going to keep trying to get them better and better and improve and look better and sound better and just feel better overall. So head over to patreon.com/Thunderheads. Pick a tier that's right for you. Watch that intro video.
Yeah, we're working on some fun little extras to dish out to you guys on there as well. So it won't just be exactly what's in the tiers. There's going to be some fun random shit we throw in there. So
yeah, and we'll constantly come up with new ideas to push and add to the patrons exclusively that the normals won't get access to. So,
And that's
if
what
you,
you're now called from now on if you're not a member. So
if you like the show, if you want to support the show, just head over there. It's nothing too big. It's not like we're trying to move our whole operation over there. It's just something that, we put a lot of work into this thing, and we want to give everyone an opportunity to help support the show and help us continue to do this and get better and enjoy the Thunder together, right?
exactly.
All right, we will catch you guys on Friday. Thunder up.